The first original series to hit DC Universe is Titans, dropping October 12th, and we were provided the first 3 episodes to review. So this is going to be my overall impressions of the show so far, as we haven't seen the entire season, so things could go up or down from here. But it's also going to be kind of what I think of the show and the characters and stuff, since I have essentially seen nearly 3 hours of it. So for those of you who don't know, Titans is a reimagining of the Teen Titans characters, as they are slightly older in this version and coming together for the first time. So you're actually seeing, how they come together as a team, where the characters are in this incarnation. Obviously, Dick Grayson is kind of the focal point of the show. He's just left the shadow of Batman, so he's harboring, a grudge against him, and we see that throughout the show. But like I said, there are other characters that we see appear in this, like Beast Boy, Starfire, Raven, Hawk, and Dove, and all of them are kind of meeting for the first time, but some do have a history together. So initially I wasn't really looking forward to the show too much when I started to see the promotional material for it, just because it looked like a very big departure from what I understood of the Teen Titans, in the animated series and in the various comic runs they've had over the years. And my first impressions are that the show is not very good. It's unfortunate because I think that a high budget live action show revolving around the Titans could have been really cool, but for some reason the direction and tone that they went for, the whole heavy R-rated thing, where all the characters are swearing, they're killing people, there's like gratuitous blood and guts everywhere. It just seems like such a weird tone to go for with Teen Titans. I found myself thinking that this feels more in line with like Zack Snyder's Watchmen movie than it does with anything I've ever seen of Teen Titans. I mean, even in the comic books, they go to some pretty dark places, especially as this show is drawing inspiration from the 1980s runs of the characters, when the Titans did go through a pretty dark time and they were trying to go off on their own and, forge their own image. So essentially the show picks up where Raven is kind of on the run, trying to figure out where she belongs in the world, because people have lied to her apparently, and she's not exactly who she thinks she is. That's how she comes across Dick Grayson, and then obviously the other characters get involved. Without going into spoilers here, I don't want to spoil anything about the show. As for the characters in this show, I think that the one that I enjoyed the most was Beast Boy, but it's a shame that we didn't get enough of him in these first 3 episodes, as like I mentioned, it does focus very heavily on Raven and Dick Grayson. And like I brought up earlier, there are a lot of changes to the comic book versions of these characters. Starfire is still named Corey, presumably from another planet, as she has a lot of power sets and she doesn't really know where she belongs either. We find her when she's essentially had amnesia. She doesn't know who she is, her name, anything, and she comes across the other characters and things ensue. So as far as the technical stuff goes, this does look like a slightly higher budget CW series, almost like early days of Arrow, I guess, but with a higher production value. Like the sets look better, costumes look better in this show. I think the cinematography and camera work, fights and stuff like that, I think are definitely better than the CW, but it is a near CW level in terms of the overall production value of the show. So my final thoughts, like I said, I didn't like it too much, but I mean, who knows? I believe the series is 12 episodes, so I've only seen a fourth of it, so maybe things could like significantly change in this back half of the season. We don't really know. The show is being released weekly on DC Universe, and I'm not sure how it's going to come internationally, but for those of you who do live outside of the United States, you can check it out on Netflix. But for these first 3 episodes, I'm honestly leaning between like a 4 and a 5 out of 10. I really did not like the show up until this point. It just felt like so edgy and just so needlessly dark and depressing, and I just really couldn't connect with any of the characters, like I said, apart from Beast Boy. But again, he's hardly in the show so far, so it's like the one character that I did like is barely in it. If you have seen Titans, drop your thoughts down in the comments below, but try to keep it spoiler free. And what do you guys think of Titans so far? Like, are you looking forward to seeing it? It does drop next week. Are you going to be subscribing to DC Universe to watch the show weekly? Is this something that is interesting you? Because this is their first original series on the platform. We'll definitely have more content covering Titans in the coming days and weeks as we get more of a rollout for it. So for more updates on Titans and everything pop culture, be sure to subscribe to HN Entertainment.